This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
Life is made up of many gorgeous moments. Cherish them all, big and small, with Blue Nile. Whether it's for yourself or a loved one, Blue Nile's unrivaled selection of expertly crafted fine jewelry and statement pieces help make all your moments sparkle. Blue Nile's experts are on hand to guide you, and their diamond guarantee ensures you get the highest quality at the best price. Celebrate a life well lived in the most radiant way and save up to 30% at BlueNile.com. That's BlueNile.com.
Back with an episode of Keeping Current. It's been a little bit. This is Abel from KC Soccer Journal with me, Daniel Sperry, on the other side of this lovely little screen in front of me from the KC Star. I didn't want to leave that out. How are you, Mr. Sperry?
I am alive, well, and finally thought out after going and talking to some fans at the fan kickoff party tonight at CPKC Stadium, as of time of recording, which was Friday night.
Was it a fun event?
Yeah, it seemed to be good. A lot of fans rolling through. There were some player autographs. Fans were able to pick up their scarves, all that kind of stuff. Got a sneak peek at the parking situation, which, oh boy, y'all aren't going to love it that much. But
how'd that go, man?
not great. I'll just leave it at that. I'll probably put a little bit more out there later at some point, but if you thought the parking situation was bad last time, it's going to be worse this time. I do think that once the streetcar is actually up and running, I think that will help.
It'll help. They still have to park somewhere, though.
They
That's the
still have
problem.
to park somewhere, but if people have already gotten accustomed to the busing system, better get accustomed to the streetcar, because the parking is going to be very minimal. So, I do think overall it was good to be back in the building, kind of get a vibe for things going back, getting underway. I know briefly said hello to a couple of players and they were like, all right, like we're really back into the swing of things now, starting next week. So I think fans had that same idea. Fans were jazzed for the start of the season. So don't blame them. A lot of people looking forward to next Saturday.
Yeah, me too. It's been an interesting preseason. We haven't been able to really see much because no practices, no televised games. When I say no practices, we haven't been able to see any of them. So we really haven't seen a whole lot.
Yep. They've been mostly held out of state, briefly held here for a little bit. No open trainings while they were in town. Granted, It was freezing, and I don't want to either track them down at some random indoor facility way out of my way, nor do I want to freeze my rear end off outside longer than I have to. So I do think we should be getting some training next week open. They will have to start that as we get into preseason or the build up to match day number 1 of the year. So we will probably have some more to report from training next week on our podcast. We'll make sure to do one then. But yeah, looking forward to the start of a normal routine in covering the Current.
Yeah,
which means a more routine podcast.
Yes, we'll definitely be more routine in a routine. So what's some news that we haven't had a chance to cover? I think last time we talked, the Current head made the move to get Hopkins. What else do we need to cover?
Well, we can start briefly with the fact that the Mexican women's national team is going to be playing at CPKC Stadium against
Jamaica.
Jamaica, thank you.
I went to the press conference, but I got the wrong time, so I was there late. So I did read on it though.
I briefly forgot the opponent, but yes, we are going to be at CPKC Stadium in April for a Mexico versus Jamaica match. Should be, I mean, Bunny Shaw plays for Jamaica. There's a lot of very good Mexican players. If you did not see the goal that the player from Tigres scored, Jackie Ovalle, earlier this week, she'll be playing for Mexico. So it should be a fun CONCACAF game at CPKC Stadium, but upcoming in April.
Yeah, it should be a good game. Jamaica is usually a very entertaining team.
Yeah. It'll be the first international friendly or international match played at CPKC Stadium.
Yes, not international teams as in other leagues in other countries.
As
The
in
first
national teams.
international team as in national teams. Just making sure we
Yes.
clarify that.
Yes.
Because they've already had teams from Japan and South Africa and
Correct.
Spain. All right. Yeah, I'll be interested in being there for that game, but we will see how it conflicts with everything else. All right. What other good news have we had? Like I think you listed off a couple things
Oh,
before we started this pod.
oh yes, the documentary.
Yes.
Check out the For the Win documentary. We saw them up close working their rear ends off in Kansas City during the NWSL Championship. That is a significant portion of the final episode of the four-part series. You can find it on Prime Video. No, they haven't paid me to say this. I wish they did, but um, go check it out. The Current are very heavily featured. There's some really great quotes in there. Meredith Speck talks about how she hates Kansas City, but it's more of a jealousy kind of a thing. She did so, again, within context, she did so in the build-up to their playoff game against each other. It's like as they were driving from the airport into town and they cross the Bond Bridge and she's in the bus being interviewed by them, and she's saying how much she didn't want to have to play Kansas City, and she's stuck playing Kansas City in the playoffs, and even she hates them. She's tired of it. She said she understands the hype, but she wants to quote silence the crowd. Silence the city, and that did not work out in her favor. But
Nope.
some really cool candid moments. You also get a little bit of player um, I wouldn't say dramatization, but player monologue discussing the rivalry that brewed between Orlando and Kansas City, with Overland Park's own Haley McCutcheon doing the storytelling from an Orlando point of view, which is really kind of one very smart of the producers to set it up that way. But
Oh
I
yeah.
thought it is really cool, and I like the behind the scenes vibe, a little bit personalization of some of these players, especially players like Croy Bethune. She talks very deeply about her freak ACL, or not ACL, freak meniscus injury throwing out the first pitch at a Washington Nationals game. I mean, there's really, really good stuff and insight into that series. So I think you should watch all four episodes. Note that the Current are very heavily featured in episodes 2 and 3. Episode 2 has some interviews and deeper insight on just the Kansas City Current themselves from Angie Long and Brittany Mahomes. I think Kayla Sharples, Alana Cook, a few other players are mentioned, are also interviewed as part of it. So, um, cool documentary, very well done. It looks good, and I think it's a good advertisement for the product that the NWSL is.
Cool. I have actually several soccer related documentaries that I need to get through. The one with MLS, this one,
Hmm.
and Pulisic. I
Yep.
haven't I've not had a chance to watch any of those. I'm trying to catch up on Marvel TV shows right now.
Ah.
Sadly, that's a priority right at the moment.
Ah, that's a, some you have a healthy work-life balance. We'll say that.
Well, I don't have a healthy work-life balance. It's that I either am all work or all other life. So it's like not much in between sometimes. So I'm as this week has been a challenge also for a lot of reasons. Daughter was in Iraq and we went to a concert in Omaha and lots of things going on. So I'm playing catch up on a lot of stuff right now. But I don't do anything by half-ass usually. All right. So we got through those news, those pieces of information, those points of interest. The last time we spoke was Hopkins had been signed,
Mhm.
acquired, and has there been any real moves since then?
There's no move since then on the current side, at least.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Want to just walk down this roster a little bit and see what we think?
Sure, let's take a stroll.
I don't know if it'll be a deep dive, but it'll be a look.
At some point, we will have submerged underwater.
Oh, for sure. Um, how do we want to do this, Daniel? Do we want to start with goalies? Do we want to just like alphabetically, by
Oh, let's
height?
go. Let's go by height. I don't have their heights listed on my to sort and
Uh,
filter my spreadsheet as. So let's just go through position by position.
on one of my sheets, I do have heights, but I have not updated that sheet with all the players. So
There
I
you
think
go.
we'll just go as close to by position as we can. Keepers, Claire Gagne,
Hmm.
uh, Lorena, and Laurel Ivory.
Yeah.
Uh, we've talked about this before. Lorena, world class keeper. We suspected they were going to go after a world class keeper, not her, but they did. So they have her, Laurel Ivory, experienced NWSL player. We know that she could be really good because she shut out the
Hmm.
current last year, and
Made 10
Gagne.
saves in doing so too, right?
Yeah,
10 saves is ridiculous.
she
Uh,
didn't really have a chance to get in a total groove because she wasn't always playing all the games, but she looked really good at times.
Hey, it's Haley Steinfeld. When everything requires your attention, it can be tough to figure out what to prioritize. But I'm here to talk to you about something that you should always put first: your breast health. In fact, if you're 40 and over, you should be getting screened once a year. And if you're under 40, it's never too soon to visit yourattentionplease.com to learn about your breast cancer risk. So go on, pay the girls some attention and take the time to find out your breast cancer risk at yourattentionplease.com. Trust me, your future self will thank you.
yeah. In general, I think this is a strong group. Um, I would say this is a stronger group than started out in goal last year for the current. And we know that last year the current goalkeeper room um, kind of ended much stronger than it started
Oh yeah.
with bringing in Alma Schultz. But Lorena is a very quality player as well. I'm looking forward to seeing what she brings. And injuries, international duty, whatnot. Laurel Ivory is a goalkeeper that you're really comfortable and capable with. She already has a rapport with Alana Cook. Kayla Sharples is, I'm not jumping too far ahead in the roster, but like these are players that understand each other. They'll be good in playing with each other. I think the Laurel Ivory pickup really, when you're last year, you kind of go into the year with French, and French is struggling, and you can't really bench her at that point because you have a fourth round draft pick as your third string goalkeeper, and you have a player who has yet to make a professional appearance as your backup. It's not an ideal situation for the goalkeeper room in doing so, and I know that's even got the vibe even before the end of last season that they were still looking to make a pretty big splash in the goalkeeper room. I think Alma Schultz kind of surprised everyone in how well she played, and then it was about whether or not they could retain her. They couldn't. They chose not to retain AD French, and so that group, that whole goalkeeper room gets a real makeover. But it's not a very like outside of that, the roster really didn't receive another very big makeover. So it'll be interesting to see and watch the growth in rapport between the back line and the goalkeeper. But this is also one of those where you're not remaking the room in the mid-season like the current did, and
No.
you're kind of like wondering how long it's gonna like not that how long it's gonna take, but like you're wondering how they figure each other out and how they continue to grow. Like this is a group that's been together for 8 to 10 weeks now of
Yeah.
preseason and should have plenty of opportunity for rapport with one another.
Okay. Well, I just want to go ahead and bridge that next gap because defender, Reagan Steiglider, Haley Mace, Ellie Wheeler, Elizabeth Ball, Alana Cook, Izzy Rodriguez, Gabrielle Robinson, who is on season injury, Kayla Sharples, Katie Scott, who's new to the team. I don't know if I missed any defenders. I was trying to roll down there because I have them in this list. I have them by jersey number, all
Did you
but
get
one.
did you get Ellie Wheeler?
I believe I did. Yes.
Okay.
Uh, so just to because I want to bridge that gap because that rapport between keeper and especially center backs, but all of the back line is starting over. But at least you now have Cook and Sharples, presumed starters, uh, have had time together, and now they actually have time to build that rapport with Laurel Ivory and Lorena Cook, or with Lorena and Cook and Sharples. So they have a chance to build that rapport. What was already started last year with the back line. So it's good. It's better start than they've had since a while.
Mhm. And I think too, like, you know, we saw quickly how good Sharples and uh, Cook could be together. Haley Mace is also a really strong player. You like what you see in her. Ellie Wheeler, also a really strong player, can play on the right or the left. Really kind of came into her own as a left back. It's funny. I literally have Haley Mace's position listed as all because I think she
Yes.
can like comfortably play in any line except for goalkeeper, and even then, might never know if she might like pull off a save or two. Like, Haley even kind of joked that she played almost more as a center back at times last year. She was not really a bomb Marad forward right back, and I think that kind of the way that the way that Vlaco has the team balanced makes that back line kind of interesting. But like, there's a lot of depth here. You have a young player in Katie Scott too, who's got a lot of promise. Steigletter showed very well in the moments that we got to see of her. The battle between Izzy Rodriguez and Ellie Wheeler has been really, really good. And not say that there's necessarily a battle for time, more of a battle for time, right? And I think it's brought out the best in both players because, the moments that Izzy gets her shot, she does really, really well.
Yep.
And then it pushes Ellie to another level, which pushes Izzy to another level on that left side. And I think it's been a really impressive group to watch, kind of grow and mesh. And you don't have the huge names on the list. You don't have a Becky Sauerbrunn in there, but like these are players, especially Alana Cook is so physical, but she reads the game so quickly. Kayla Sharples is excellent in the air. She fights for everything. There's the they've done such a good job even last year that you have to wonder like how far can that group grow together in the coming weeks, coming years.
And just kind of adding on to what you were saying about some of those players, Wheeler and Izzy get to go forward really well. Uh, Mace, like you said, is pretty much you could list all for her position, but we know she's played as a winger, as a back, and so just having that opportunity for those outside backs to be really in the offense or really in the defense, depending on the game situations, is just a strong asset. So you don't have a single tool type of player back there. Does that
Yeah,
make sense the way I said it? I'm
right.
getting distracted by something else at the moment.
No, you're okay. I think that's right. Um, I think there's just a lot of quality in that group, but it's like not how to say it's not name power quality. It's just strong. It's strong, consistent. They fight for everything. You know exactly what you're going to get out of them every single time, and I think that is down a little bit to the culture, but just the makeup of the players that Vlaco has brought in, which helps shape the culture in that way. But I think that this
Yes.
is like looking at that group, it's a really I think it's like you are not going. I will be shocked if the Kansas City Current concede more goals or as many goals this year as they did last year.
Yeah, I seriously doubt it. But
You're not going to get those 5-3, 5-4, 5-2 games as much. No, not saying the Current won't score 5 goals. They're not going to be conceding 3, 4 goals in those kind of fluky setups. I don't see the high scoring barn burners being a thing as much in their 2025 season.
yeah, those games are entertaining for fans, especially neutrals, but
Yeah.
that's not entertaining for coaches. That's where Blanco gets his gray hair from.
Yes.
But I like where you were kind of going earlier was, players affect culture, culture affects players. So the players build that culture, culture builds those players. When
Mhm.
it's in a positive spin, it's all going to grow. When it's in a negative spin, it goes to hell. All right,
Mhm.
midfielders. Midfielders. Where are my midfielders?
I
Uh,
got you.
Low,
There you go.
Rocky, Claire,
Hmm.
Vanessa, Bailey, Feist,
Hmm.
Jericho is listed as a mid. I always
Hmm.
feel like she's a little bit more forward, but I
Yeah.
haven't seen her enough to really. I guess she has filled in more in the midfield role when she's been in there. Alex Pfeiffer is listed as a forward midfielder. I just really see her as a forward, but that's me. And then of course Dabinia, which could be listed as a midfielder or forward. So
Hmm.
did I miss anybody?
No. I mean, Mary Long's kind of a forward, but she could also kind of play in the midfield too.
Yeah. Again, I see her much more as a forward, but
I
there's a lot of
agree.
players. A lot of players can fit into that, you know, drop into that
Hmm.
10 or an outside mid spot. So
Yep.
what do you, not a lot of change to that. Just
No.
the addition of a very experienced Rocky, which
Hmm.
I know actually you kind of saw her as Rocky as a midfielder, forward midfielder too, because
Hmm.
I think you looked at her as a lot as either a nine or withdrawn forward. So
Yeah, and I think, bringing back Nichelle Prince kind of fits that, although I wouldn't be surprised if we see Nichelle Prince more on the wing a little bit this year when she does get in games. I think like there's a lot of talent in that midfield, and there's three spots.
yeah,
Like that's really what it's going to come down to. And how does and striking the right balance in the midfield. Does Lowe drop as deep? Does she sit? If it's Lowe and Hutton, then you've got room for one of Rocky Rodriguez, Vanessa DiBernardo, Debinha, if you choose not to play Debinha on the wing,
yeah.
which means you're benching one of Michelle Cooper or uh, Timo Chawinga, who's probably going to be on the wing, and that's not happening either. So you're kind of in a pickle in terms. I'll say this: you're in a pickle, but you're not, because you can do different things in that midfield depending on who's there, who's the opponent. What's the opponent going to do? If you look at this Portland Thorns team that they're going to play in week one, that's a team that's decimated by injury right now, and they're eventually at some point going to lose Sophia Wilson, now Wilson, not Smith anymore,
Yep. That's
as
going to be a struggle
she
for me.
as she announced a pregnancy earlier this week. Obviously, it'll be a little bit before she actually truly steps away, um, but uh, as far like at least that was the drift that I got. But um, and I mean, Alex Morgan played pregnant for a little while as well, so
Yeah, a lot
wouldn't
of
be
players do. It just depends on their choice and their
yeah.
doctor's recommendations for their particular situations.
Correct, correct. But we'll see what happens with that. But like you look at a midfield. Sorry, I got on a tangent there. That Thorns team though, they've got multiple players on season-ending injury. They just added a
Well,
couple of players. They're like you
we'll
look at
focus more on a first game preview in a few days. Cool.
correct,
You can finish your statement if you want to, but I'm just like, let's not get too far ahead of
correct,
ourselves.
correct, correct. I
We
am.
we both have that tendency sometimes.
I know. What I'm saying is that depending on who's there, Vlaco has enough personnel in the same way that he has with the back line. You
Right.
don't have to, you can mix and match. You can, based on what the other team is doing. So if Portland's lacking something, he can exploit it by doing this. You might see a game of Rocky Rodriguez and Vanessa DiBernardo in there with someone else. Like he can mix and match and play around, and I think that is it's kind of like there's a mix of, you want consistency, but you also want the flexibility to be able to do different things, to exploit different things that your opponents do.
And that is the beauty of it. Let's go ahead and just get the forwards in here real quick before we run out of time. Timoa, Nichelle, Bia, Haley Hopkins, Michelle Cooper, Hamilton, and Mary Long and Pfeiffer. So
Hmm.
just going with what you were saying is yes, he has a ton of flexibility and has a ton of ability to rest players, start player one game, rest him a little bit if he wants to do it that way. He will probably have a very consistent starting lineup and then make those adjustments where a player like Dabinia could go from the midfield to a wing, or you know, players like that can switch little spots and they can go just give completely different looks within the
Mhm.
game by switching up where they're at, or even just swapping spots. So he's got a ton of options with these players and so much talent. The biggest thing will be keeping all of them healthy.
Yeah.
Be a healthy. That's be a healthy.
hmm Be healthy. That's also kind of why you get a player like Haley Hopkins too, in case of Bia not being healthy, that you have a true, back to goal type striker that you can play centrally that's going to pass. She has a decent passing game if you look at
Yep.
her statistics from last year. So Dabinia has shown she could be in that spot, and or not Dabinia. Well, Dabinia has kind of played as a withdrawn nine. I meant though, Nichelle Prince has done it, as has Rocky Rodriguez. So I think there's a lot of uh, there's just so even between that group in the midfield and the attack, there's so much fluidity that in reality, there's a lot of different things that Flacco could do. Um, if he needs to, based on injury, based on exploiting matchups, it's kind of in a way it's an embarrassment of riches in both spots. But at the same time, it makes it hard to choose every week, but you also create that competition.
Yeah.
So some of those choices make themselves for you.
And you'll always have the times when players go off to camps or have injuries, so you need that depth.
Mhm.
But one of the biggest problems last year was Bia being hurt and then becoming much more one-dimensional with okay, ball fast Timois
Yep.
situations,
hmm
which when they're a much better team, when they have somebody who can do the hold up or the creative play that Bia can do, and Hopkins will hopefully fill that role when Bia is not able to. Um, I think just for fun, because I know we're going to at least do one more pod before the season starts to more officially preview the first game, which I think we already did a very good job of it, but we'll officially preview it a little bit. But let's come back with what not necessarily what we think the starting lineup will be in that first game, but what we think our preferred lineup, what we would do. What do you think? That's
Okay.
your homework.
That's my homework
It's pretty easy,
to
but
do it
it's
right
really
now.
not. No, no, for the
Oh,
next pod.
for the next pod. Sure.
Yeah, that's why I say it's homework.
Okay. That's good.
All
I don't
right.
like doing homework. I got out of school for that one. Done.
Well,
Done. Done with that.
it's not hard homework, Daniel. You're already doing it mentally anyway. This is not
I am.
this is not algebra or, home
Trig.
cooking 12 or whatever, Like
Home
um
cooking 12.
yeah, I was just trying to find something to throw out there. It was sounded stupid. Um I took a lot of those drafting and woodworking and all that stuff. And yes, one of my greatest weaknesses is woodworking. I will have to admit I suck at that. Um But I just figured it's a good thing for us to come back for the next one with, and we can kind of do it two ways. Is what we would start with the lineup that we know is currently healthy, but what we think the best possible lineup that he could put out there for any situation. Deal?
Yeah. Deal.
All right. And then you can, if you really want extra credit, you can come with what you think the opponent's lineup will be.
I'm not gonna guess that one.
Oh, come on, man. That's the tough one. That's
That is the tough one. That's really tough given Portland's situation now.
actually,
I've never.
it might simplify it though, because honestly,
It
it's
might.
hard to say what Flacco's perfect lineup is right now because we know there's so many players that can fill so many positions, and all we're going off of is what we saw last season. We don't know where they're at this season.
Mhm.
Obviously, we think Claire deserves a start at the six, but maybe he doesn't now. You know.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else that we need to cover before we run out of time?
Brief, quick congratulations to both Claire Hutton and Michelle Cooper for getting their U.S. Women's National Team debuts and first goal for Coop.
Yeah.
Cool moment. I think a lot of pride for them. Really cool to see them show out on the national stage.
I was not at all surprised that Clara got a call up just because I, saw that as her progression. And I was just worried that with Cooper being a winger, not scoring necessarily a ton of goals last year, well, the last couple of years, I didn't know
Mhm.
if she was maybe had passed that time. But in the futures camp, she showed at the national team level that she deserves to be there. So really happy for her.
Yeah. Um, She showed a lot last year, a lot of growth, and
Yep.
I'll be curious if we see her on the score sheet more this year to come. But she took an immense step forward throughout her rookie year, took an immense, even twice as big step forward going from year one to year two. And the player that she's become out on the wing is a very difficult player to play against. And so
Hmm.
it's been fun to watch that progression from Coop.
I love a player that is skilled and physical and not afraid to get in and mess it up with people, mess around with people. My words are not coming very well today. I know you can go today, but anyway, to get into it with people, I love players that can do kind of the whole thing. So she's that's why she's been a lot of fun to watch this last year. All right, man. Appreciate the time. We are, I think, done, and we are out.